Hello and welcome to Nelson Math Focus 6 podcast. I'm Mr. Burko from St. John Fine Arts School. This is Chapter 10, Lesson 1, Predicting Probabilities. Our goal for our lesson today, which can be found on page 326 of your textbook, is predict and determine the experimental probability of an outcome. This lesson is important because it's going to introduce you to a term called experimental probability. It's one of the important terminologies that you need to understand in this unit. We have an example here. Mai, who is a character in our book, likes to play an Aboriginal game in which players take turns hiding a bead under one of many blankets. The other players have to guess where the bead is hidden. Each blanket has the same chance of being chosen. Mai conducted a probability experiment to explore the chances of the bead being hidden under the blue blanket. So what she did was she took a red cube and she took a blue cube, and I've used dice here, but you can use cubes or whatever you want. She put them in a paper bag, and that represents the colors of the two blankets. She did this 20 times, and she recorded the results on a chart. Chart is cut off here. On the blue side, you should be able to see 11, and on the right hand side here, in the not blue side, you can see 9. So what that means is it was chosen, the blue one was chosen 11 times, and the not blue one was chosen 9 times. They're about the same, which is kind of what we would expect. The question in the textbook then is, how does the probability of the bead being hidden under the blue blanket change as more colored blankets are added to the game? Sometimes it's a little difficult for us to understand when we're using different objects and we're talking about blankets. So you need to picture in your head right now a whole bunch of blankets, and one blanket is blue and there's a bead that we're hiding underneath somewhere under one of the blankets, and the person has to choose the right blanket in order to win the game. Well, in our chart here, we have a number of different colors on this side, and we have the experimental probability of picking blue. Now, an experimental probability is when you actually conduct the experiment. So these are the results, theoretically, of somebody in our textbook who's conducted this experiment. So out of 20 times, they had 2 blankets and the bead was underneath one of them. They chose the bead in the blue blanket 11 out of 20. Or if we're talking about cubes, they chose the blue cube out of the bag 11 out of 20 times. If there were 3 different colored cubes inside the bag, they would have chosen the blue one probably about 7 out of 20 times. If you conducted this experiment, you might get results similar to that one. And then so on, we go down the list. You'll notice that the number out of 20 gets smaller every time. There is an anomaly in the textbook where we get to 4 out of 20 in the last one. And as you can probably imagine, sometimes this happens. Just like in real life, sometimes you're the one who wins the lottery. Usually you're not, but sometimes you are, and that's a 1 in a million chance. Well, this is an 11 out of 20 chance, and it could happen when you conduct an experiment that something goes a little bit awry and you get number 10 4 out of 20 times. That happens, right? So just as we would expect, these numbers are going down on the left-hand side of the fraction here. And you can write this fraction on top of, with the 11 on top of the 22, but because of the table, I've written it like this. And 7 out of 20 here, if there's 3 different colors. So the more different number of colors that you have in the bag, then the less a chance that you will choose that blue one. I'm sure that if you think about that, that makes sense. And so that's experimental probability, as if we just conducted the experiment and this is what we received. We didn't necessarily make any predictions. We wanted to see what would happen, and this is what happened. And that's it for today. Chapter 10, Lesson 1, Predicting Probabilities. Thanks for joining me.